morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here. That Journey chick on Instagram. Um, what do you think of my shirt? I call it my crafty heifer shirt. I was shopping for shirts a few months ago, and I saw this one, and I said, "Oh, I gotta have it." Anyway, so I wanted to show you my progress on the mystery painting. Okay, so I finished this over the weekend. I finished this last night. Not at all sure what this is here. So, other than maybe, I don't know. I thought maybe some more playing cards. I don't know. We definitely know this is a stopwatch and some playing cards up here. But I don't know what's going on down here. So what I thought I'd do today is I'm going to open up this section right here and work on there. I'm just kind of moving around the painting because it's fun to do it that way. Yeah, so I will just use my fingernails. Oh, not very successfully. Goodness gravy. This is really stuck on there. Okay, for my magnets. Okay. I'm a little tired today. I don't know if I told you. I may have, I forget what I tell you guys, but we have this critter that is roaming around underneath the crawl space of this house. Right there. It just wants to come up. Right there. And, the landlord has come out and she's put traps there. But that damn thing just has ignored the traps. I don't know what it is. We think it's probably another raccoon. Ignoring the traps, waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning because it wants to come in my closet. They're in my closet. There's a panel that comes out so that the plumber could work on the bathroom fixtures, and it's decided it wants to come through that panel into my, and I've got all this stuff crammed up against it so it won't, and it still somehow moves that panel. So today I got down there with a flashlight. This is at 3 in the morning, and of course the dogs hear it and they wake up. So I did go back to sleep because boy, was my back hurting last night. I think it's because I've been sitting in this chair for so long. I sat here again last night till probably about 8 o'clock, just diamond painting, crocheting. To me, it's super comfortable, but I guess sitting anywhere for too long is not good for your back. All right, what color? Oh, let's do 310, shall we? Why not? Why not? Because I can't find it. That's why not. All right, let's do a different color. I'm not awake. All right. Okay, we'll do this one since I don't know where the 310 is. Oh, there's the 310. Okay, we'll do the 310 next. Boy, am I ambitious, huh? We're going to do them both, right? Because this is going to be another long show. I'm sorry about yesterday. I know it was 40 minutes long. But there's so much going on in this trial. Oh, my gosh. So before we get there, though, let's talk about what national day it is. Now, I don't think that Rivka, she's another diamond painting creator, I'm not sure she watches the show, but she is a huge fan of dolphins, and it is National Dolphin Day. So, this is the day we recognize the dolphins, and how do you celebrate today? Watch a documentary. I can't even talk. Watch a documentary about dolphins. They have this incredible hearing. They can hear like 1,000 times better than we can. I don't know if that's true. I just made that up. But they're way better than we can. Let me see if I was right. Oh, do 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 do, National Dolphin Day. Do 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 do. Was I right? Was I right? Was I right? No? Yes? No? Maybe? So? They can hear frequencies 10 times or more above the upper limit of what humans can. Okay, so I lied. I made that number up. It's 10 times, not 1,000 times. Now you can't rely on Rebecca for any kind of information. You'll have to forgive me. And they travel in these pods. The pods are usually smaller, like, 12-ish dolphins, and they get very close to the other members of the pods. But then they have these super pods that are formed when they can find enough food. But like if one of the pod members is injured, the dolphins will just stay with them. And they'll make sure that they'll breathe for them. It's pretty cool. They'll actually bring the other dolphin to the surface so the dolphin can breathe. How cool is that? When they leap above the water, that's called porpoising. That's why some people call them porpoises, because it's called porpoising. The jumping saves them energy as there is less friction in the air. Their leaps even have a name called porpoising. Some other explanations for leaping include orientation, social display, fighting, nonverbal communication, entertainment, and attempting to dislodge parasites. They also can suffer from, now this is interesting, type 2 diabetes. So they're studying dolphins to see if there's, some way that, medicine can help both humans and dolphins with type 2 diabetes. Now, am I a fan of dolphins? Oh, I'm not a fan of dolphins. I just, I'm just not a big fish person. So I think it would be cool to do one of those excursions where you can swim with the dolphins. I've never done that, and I think that would be kind of fun. Like, just to get up there and pet them, and they're very social, dolphins are. And in the world of diamond painting, there are a lot of dolphin diamond paintings, or diamond paintings that include dolphins. So, speaking of diamond paintings, here comes the commercial part of the program, guys. Treasure Studios Arts released more Maria Abagnale. Now, she's different. She presents a more mature woman. The women are usually naked. Their breasts are covered with hair or other objects, and sometimes if even the lower body part, if it's exposed, it's covered by some sort of flower or something. But interesting colors, pastels, pinks. I love pinks. And I do have one of her paintings that I have not finished. It's a whip. It's hanging up. One day I'm gonna film all my whips. And I'm not ashamed of it. What happened with that one is the colors got mixed up. Whoever packed the colors at the warehouse mixed up the colors. So it kind of, when things like that happen, then you got to wait for new colors, and it kind of sort of inflates your enthusiasm about that. But check out her new artwork, Maria Abagnale. Yeah, you know who I mean. Check that out. And if you happen to find yourself at checkout, you can use my code Rebecca15 for a discount of 15% off your purchase of $40 or more. And before you leave Treasure Studios Art website, check out the collection of washi tape that they have. Oh, amazing. If you have a gift that you want to get somebody coming up, they have these beautiful gift boxes that include like paper and washi tape, and they're gorgeous. So check out Treasure Studios Art. Also use the code Rebecca15. I'm not going to say it again. You know the drill. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Yeah, I'm a little nutty. I cover a little of everything: diamond painting, cross stitch, crochet, loom knitting. Tonight is Craft With Me Wednesday, where I go live for 1 hour at 6 p.m. Central. And I'm going to be coloring in the Jane Hankins Enchanted Forest. We're going to get lost in the Enchanted Forest, and I am bringing with me Crafting with Christy and her son Luke. We're going to go scrambling through the forest. Yes. So join us. It's always fun. And then I get to catch up with all my subscribers and find out who's in the hospital, who's out of the hospital. Yeah, it's been terrible lately. People in the hospital. I know. I hope everybody's well now and home and safe. And what is going on with the weather? It is May. I'm watching the George Floyd trial, and one of the reporters is standing outside, and it's snowing. It's May. No, it's April. I'm sorry. Oh my God. I need to start this show over again. It's April, but it still shouldn't be snowing. It's April showers, not April snow. April showers bring May flowers, right? Not April snow. But anyway, they even said on the news last night that here, where I live in Wichita, Kansas, that it is supposed to go down into the 20s tonight. So guess what? My temperature blanket color is going to change again. I am trying to keep up. I'm trying. Oh, okay. It's time to talk about judge, jury, and jury. What a day for this trial yesterday. So the prosecution starts the day by saying, "Your Honor, we rest our case." Yay! No more boring witnesses. I'm sure the jurors were going, "Oh, thank God this is almost over." Because if you saw the actual courtroom, because of COVID, usually the jurors will sit in a jury box in these big comfy chairs, they are sitting in school, like little school desks that are spread 6 feet apart. If I had to sit in one of those school desks all day long, I'd be crippled. I think is probably why the judge lets them take frequent breaks, because, man, that would just, like I said, it would cripple me to have to sit there. So the first defense witness is this Officer Chang. Oh, not Chang. Scott Creighton. He is a former Minneapolis police officer. He's retired, old guy. And he had arrested George Floyd back in 2019, May 6, 2019. So they pull over the car, the vehicle. This officer approaches the passenger side of the car, which is where George Floyd was. And he's giving him commands and telling him, take your seatbelt off. Obviously, they showed the video, the body cam video. He's telling him to take your seatbelt off slowly. Let me see your hands. And Floyd is he's not complying. He's just not listening, and he's mumbling and, the same thing he did in this case. So, finally this guy draws his gun and he's like, of course, Floyd is like, don't shoot me, same thing he did in this case. And they get him out of the vehicle, and he and the other officer, they arrest him because he's resisting. The window was down. He couldn't see his hand, so finally the officer actually grabbed Floyd's hand and put him up on the dashboard. He described his demeanor as being nervous and anxious and yeah, so, and it was just a routine traffic stop, but because of his, resistance to and not following commands, they actually believe that he's under the influence of something, and they arrest him. But he's standing up straight. They put him up against the car. Him and the other officer, they arrest him, and like he's not falling down or, you know. Anyway, so then they take him to the hospital. No, they take him to the precinct 4, and then from precinct 4, they call the paramedics because now Floyd has said, "I've taken a lot of drugs." So they call the paramedics. The paramedic responds to this precinct 4 in Minneapolis, and this poor lady, she was so nervous. Oh, bless her heart. She said he was very hard to assess, that he was upset, he was confused, which for some reason the judge struck that because it wasn't in response to any questions. So he said, "I'm striking that answer." So I don't know. And she said that he told her he had been taking multiple opioids every 20 minutes. And she couldn't remember if it was, Percocet or what he said he took, but it was an opioid. And then during the prosecution's cross-examination of this witness, it came out that he had been taking 7 to 9 of these pills every 20 minutes. What? I know. But she felt that having taken that much opioids was not consistent with what she was seeing of his behavior. Probably because he was taking the street opioids that contain methamphetamine, I can't talk. You know what I mean. Methamphetamine and fentanyl. So he admitted to taking a pill while the officers were apprehending him. And he did tell her he had high blood pressure and hadn't taken his blood pressure medicine in months. His blood pressure was 216 over 160, and she was very concerned that this guy was going to have a stroke. So she did take him to the hospital. But in her assessment of him, which was brought out by the prosecution, she noted that he was able to stand and walk. He was alert, that he was obeying her commands. He had an appropriate response to stimulation. His respiratory effort was normal, even after all those drugs. My God. His blood oxygen level was normal. His heart was showing normal sinus rhythm on the EKG, and his pulse was normal. And she did not have to administer any Narcan to him. So the point of this is that he survived. I don't think this witness helped the defense. I think they wanted to bring these last 2 witnesses on to show that, this is how George Floyd responds, when he's stopped by officers, or, this is his MO. He takes drugs, he takes them in excessive amounts, and this is probably what happened in this case. I don't know. Anyway, but I don't think it helped their case because this prosecutor's really good. He really is. Where did this symbol go? I found it. It kind of moved. So then they brought on the ex-girlfriend of George Floyd. Now, I'm going to put the video, I'm going to link the video here. If you get a chance to watch this video, you have to watch it. It is golden. It is so worth. I even had a subscriber text me like, "Are you watching this?" Yeah, I was watching it. It was. She had on this reddish pinkish wig, and she was a suit jacket, which I got to believe that out in the hallway, the paralegal probably said, "Good Lord, what are you wearing? Here, put this jacket on." She had on gloves. I don't know why, what she thought she was going to prevent with COVID with gloves, um, since it's a respiratory virus, but I don't know. She had gloves on. Um, and her name was Shawanda Hill. Shawanda Hill. She was in the car with Mr. Hall. So this is Mrs. Hill, Mr. Hall. She was, but she testified that she was inside of this Cup Foods. She ran into George, and while he was inside Cup Foods, she said he was happy, he's dancing around, he was hugging her, appeared completely normal, was talking to her, and he offered her a ride home. Um, then they go out and they get into his vehicle, and they're there for a while, and he's having a conversation with her and Mr. Hall. They're all conversing, and no one ever asks what they were. See, there was a lot of motions prior to her testimony about what she was going to be allowed to testify to. Um, because, in fact, they brought her in before they brought the jury in, and they had her sit in the chair, and the judge talked to her for a few minutes, and he said, "Do you want a lawyer?" He says, this could get into questioning about drugs and, the drugs that George may or may not have taken. But what we want you to testify to is this, this, and this. What was his demeanor? How was he appearing to you on this day? That, this is what your testimony is going to be limited to. But if you want to talk to a lawyer, he must have said it 4 times. "I'll get you a lawyer. Do you want a lawyer? Are you sure you don't want a lawyer?" "No, I don't want a lawyer." And that's how she was acting, like she was high as a kite. Um, which I thought was very generous of the judge. Now, she was never asked any of those questions. Her testimony was very limited to what was George like that day. So they get in the car, they're conversing. Her daughter calls her on the phone, so she's having a conversation with her daughter, and George Floyd falls asleep. Now, she testified that while they were in Cup Foods, he had told her that he had been working long hours. Well, as soon as she said that, the judge cuts her off, moves to strike. "I'm striking that answer." But everybody heard it. The bell had been rang. You can't unring the bell. The jury heard it. She said it wasn't because of drugs. It was because he was working long hours. And that, she called them little boys. When the little boys from the store come up to the vehicle, this was the sales clerk coming out to try to get paid for the cigarettes. She said, when the little boys approached the vehicle, I tried to wake George up, and he just, he'd wake up and he'd mumble something and he'd make a gesture and he'd go back to sleep. So when the cops approached the vehicle, she was like shaking him, like, "Hey, George, the cops are here." And she testified he was very startled at this point. He came awake, was startled. He put his hands up on the steering wheel, and she said at no time was he complaining about shortness of breath or chest pain. But this woman, like, she would give an answer and it would be like, to the defense, it would be like a yes or no question, and she would want to explain, and he would cut her off, and she's like, is it just yes or no? Are you gonna let me explain? And and she's pushing her wig around, and she's huffing and puffing. I'm like, oh my God. She was a piece of work. She really was. Yeah. You got to check it out because I just can't describe it adequately, just how funny it was to watch. It was a little levity in the day. She was only on the stand for like 12 minutes, so the video's not long, but you'll get a kick out of it. Now, they may not show the part with the judge asking her if she wanted a lawyer, but I thought that was really funny. Then they bring in Officer Chang, who was the park police officer who, they share a common radio. The park police is actually a national part of the national government, but they're in Minneapolis, and they share the same radio system and dispatchers and stuff. So he could hear what was going on, and he could hear that there was a commotion. So he just decided he was, on his own. He's going to head over there. I mean, he does tell the dispatcher he's going over there, but he wasn't dispatched to go over there. So when he gets to the scene, he parks near, on the side of the road where they had just sat George Floyd on the ground, near the wall on the other side of the street. This is right after they get him out of the car. And as soon as he gets out of the car, someone tells him, oh, it's code 4. So what code 4 means is that everything's under control. And he's like, oh, okay. So he walks over to where Officer Lang is standing with George. And George, you could hear George, there's body cam footage. You can hear George Floyd answering questions. He gives his name. He gives his date of birth. He's upset, but he's answering the questions. And so Lang hands the information, his little notebook to Dr. Chang, to Officer Chang, and Officer Chang gets back in his vehicle to get on his computer and see if there's any warrants or out for this guy's arrest. And they never said what it showed, so whether there were any or not. Then meanwhile, while this is going on, Lang and King take George Floyd across the street to put him in the vehicle. So by the time Chang gets done running this warrant check, he gets out of his vehicle and he heads over to the other side of the street where Lang and King are trying to get this guy in the car. And Lang turns around to him and says, can you go watch his vehicle? And the reason being is they hadn't searched his vehicle yet, George Floyd's vehicle. And Chang says, yeah, I'll go watch the vehicle. And he knew that there were these two witnesses over there, which is Shawanda, the lady I was just talking about. She was there, and Mr. Hill. What's going on, baby girl? What's going on? You need to go outside? Want to go outside? Yes. Okay, we're going to pause. Animal duty. Okay, we're back. Tootsie's outside. She'll want to come in 5 minutes later. So, and it's funny because on this body cam of Dr. Chang, I keep saying Dr. Chang. I have a Dr. Chang in the emergency room that I have to deal with all the time. So that's why I keep saying Dr. Chang. Officer Chang, you can see, he said he was, at this point, he focused his attention on watching George Floyd's vehicle and these two people. And he asked them their names, and Hill said his name was William Ricardo. So he's like, oh, Ricardo, huh? Okay. Like he had no idea. And he's asking him, he said, well, let me see your ID. And he's like, no, I gave it to the other officer. Which he did. He had given something to the other officer. Maybe, I think he just gave his name. I don't know if he gave an ID. He must have, because, and then Shawanda's like, oh, I left mine at home. I left my wallet at home. And my daughter's on the way to pick me up. Can I go? And he's like, no, you can't go. You need to stay here. And they kept wanting to go back in the vehicle. And he's like, nope, you cannot go back in the vehicle. Stay out of the vehicle. But his phone is in there. Nope, leave the phone in there. Um, and, you know, Hill just kept fidgeting with his backpack. And the guy said, you know, leave that alone. Don't go in your backpack. You know, he was doing a good job of watching the vehicle. But this was Chang arrived immediately after, so you don't catch it on his body cam. It's caught by another camera where Hill reaches in his backpack and throws something away. So that was immediately before Chang gets there. Would love to have seen how that played out, right? There she is. She wants back in. Okay, we're back again. She's pretty quick. Okay, the next witness was, they brought back Nicole McKenzie, who was the EMS training officer. She's a Minneapolis police officer in charge of all the medical training, and she was brought back to testify about this training for excited delirium. And she said, we do training for excited delirium, but it's only to new officers. You know, veteran recruits do not get this training. And I thought, no wonder they had to pay $27 million. They're not training their officers on really relevant topics, because, you know, in today's environment, everyone should know about excited delirium. I mean, it's so common with this opioid crisis. But so Lane was trained in excited delirium, but Chauvin was not. Interesting. But anyway, well, how they teach it is they use an acronym called NOT a crime. She said N stands for, usually these people experiencing excited delirium run around naked. You'll get a call that, you know, so-and-so is running down the street naked and it's, you know, 19 degrees outside. The O stands for they're violent towards objects. Now, I've seen some of these people with excited delirium in the emergency room. They are literally ripping doors off the hinges. They are super strong, which is what the T stands for. They have superhuman strength. Not strength like George Floyd is strong when he was resisting, but I'm talking superhuman strength. Like when you can take a door and rip it off the hinges. Yeah, that kind of strength. A is for acute. It's usually a very sudden onset. C is for the person will be confused, speaking incoherently, which I could say maybe that describes Mr. Floyd. The R is they're not responding to commands. They're very resistant, which could also describe him. I is for they're incoherent. They're lots of times they're talking just complete nonsense. I don't know that describes George Floyd, but M means mental health. There's, you know, sometimes there's a mental health component to it. And E means you must contact EMS as soon as possible. You need to request them early, is what she said. You need to get more resources to you. Now, Lang was trained in this, and he did that. He got more resources. You know, he said, you know, we need a backup, need EMS. Although I don't know at what point he called EMS. Not early. It wasn't until after they had him on the ground and his mouth was bleeding, but they weren't called because he suspected excited delirium. Now, Lang later on during the hold does mention, you know, I'm thinking this is excited delirium. Should we put him on his side, you know, in the side recovery, which is what he was taught, you know, for these excited deliriums, you know, get them on their side. And Chauvin says, no, leave him. So, yeah. Then this officer said that they can rapidly go into cardiac arrest, which is why you want EMS there. So I thought that was interesting. But wouldn't you think if you should teach everybody that, not just the new officers, that you should teach the veterans about this phenomena because, you know, it's quite common. So, anyway, the next expert was a use of force expert. And this guy I wasn't impressed with him. I really wasn't. Because he just kind of threw out all the rules. Um, he's like, nope, it doesn't matter what the policy says, And he said, yeah, I'm aware of the Graham, which is a national court case, the Graham decision and the what they say, because one of the things that the Graham decision says is that the first thing you should look at in these cases is what is the severity of the crime, and he just kind of brushes right past that. He says, no, it's more important about that, the way that this person is responding to the officer. He did not feel like the knee on the neck or these officers restraining George Floyd in the manner that they were doing was use of force. He didn't consider it that. He doesn't consider it a use of force unless it's something that could potentially cause pain or injury. So the prosecution finally gets this guy, and he seemed very intimidated by the prosecutor. Finally gets him to admit that the position Chauvin had this guy in, yes, could potentially cause pain. So, hello, there's your use of force. Okay. And this guy said something very interesting. He said, they were justified in keeping him in that position until the ambulance came, because he says these people can, go from being, people that are suspected of these drugs can go from being docile one minute to, the next minute you release them and you're in danger of your life. Your life is in danger. Yeah. And then he was asked about positional asphyxian, and he brushed that off. He's like, no, that's for obese people. Yeah. And then he said there were several reasons why the officers were justified in not putting him in the side recovery position. He says, one, there wasn't room for it. He was butted up against a tire. Two, there was a crowd of people. And three, there was oncoming traffic, and they were so the officers had to take in the totality of the circumstances. And then he said he defines a crowd as two or more people. Okay. But he did say that the crowd was growing in size and becoming more vocal, and that he could see that Officer Chauvin was in fear of this crowd, as evidenced by, him getting his mace out. He gets his pepper spray out at one point when someone steps off the curb. So all that says to me is this man, Chauvin, is paying way more attention to this crowd than he is to the person he's got underneath his knee. So I wasn't terribly moved by this use of force expert. So that was yesterday's testimony. Now, sometimes I forget things, guys. I forget to write them down, or I mean to write them down and I get distracted. So if your memory is a little different than mine, okay. And if you want to leave a comment, I don't mind. If you want to add something to what I've said, go right ahead. It's perfectly okay. This is a discussion. So how are you guys feeling, now that the prosecution has rested and um, the defense is putting on their witnesses? I don't know, we still don't know if Derek Chauvin is going to take the stand. I kept waiting yesterday. I kept thinking, oh, is it going to be next? Is it next? I'm sure the jurors thinking the same thing. The jury, they're probably thinking, oh, is he going on the stand? Is it, do we get to hear from him? We don't know. So what I'm very disappointed about is the other shooting that happened just 10 miles down the road. And of course, the attorney for George Floyd's family swoops in, and all of a sudden, guess who he's representing? The family of this kid. He was 20 years old. This kid who gets accidentally shot 10 miles down the road. So of course he does his usual press conference, and the George Floyd family is there, and the family of this victim that was shot was there. And you see the girlfriend of George Floyd hugging the mother, and it was like one big kumbaya thing, which is lovely. They're supporting that family. I mean, that family's going through a horrendous time. But that poor officer, she resigned. I did find out it was a female. And the chief of police resigned. She is claiming that she meant to tase him and instead drew her weapon and fired it. She thought she was tasing him. And if you listen to the body cam footage, you can hear her say, "Holy shit, I just shot him." She was very surprised by what had happened. So that's, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but, meanwhile, it's snowing on everybody. It's snowing on this guy doing this press conference. Oh gosh, I don't think it was sticking to the ground though, but you can definitely tell it was snowing. I think I'm done with this symbol for now. They multiply, so we're just going to put this off to the side. We're going to get another one out. How many? Oh my God, we're at 43 minutes. I got to wrap this up, guys. Unless you just want to sit and diamond paint with me, except I got to go to work. Yes, got to go to work. Work. Yeah, tomorrow's my day to actually go into the office, but today I am wearing my Crafty Heifer t-shirt and enjoying the day. Guys, thanks for listening. I hope you are enjoying this trial coverage. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. So many of you commented, yes, Miracle Whip was the other white stuff I was going for. My father would buy Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise, and we would have banana Miracle Whip sandwiches. And some of you said, yeah, yes, but you didn't grow up in the army. We did it. We ate Miracle Whip banana sandwiches. Anyway, love you all. Take care and have a great day. See you tonight. Craft with me Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central.